All right, guys, so up to this point, we have our main app component, and we're bringing in the nav bar, footer, and landing page and just displaying those. Now, this is I mean, it's not a huge application, but it's definitely not a small application where we don't need to use a router. We need a router because we're going to have multiple routes. When it's not just, you know, one page with a form or something like that. So with most React applications, unless it's something very small, you're most likely going to be using the router. So we need to install this. So I'm going to go ahead and just stop the server with Control-C. I could have just opened another terminal, but whatever, it's fine. And we're going to say, all right, now I almost made a mistake here. We need to do this in the client, okay? You do not install the React router on your server side, which is dev connector. We want to CD into the client, okay? That's very important. When you want to install something to use with just React, you want to make sure you're in the client folder, and I almost made that mistake. Of course, you could just uninstall it, but you just want to make sure that you go into your client folder. And then we're going to say npm install. Now, we're using version 4 of React Router, so we're actually going to say react-router-dom. Okay, it used to be just React Router, but now with version 4, it's React Router DOM. So let's install that. All right, so that actually took about 40 seconds or so. I just paused it. So that's installed. Actually, let's just double check. We'll go and make sure you're in the client and look at package.json, and you should have right here React Router DOM. So now what we want to do is CD back into the standard dev connector folder, and then run npm run dev. And it's probably going to open up a new window. Yep. And that's fine. Okay, so we have our application running again. Now for the router, we're actually going to bring it into our app.js. This is basically going to be the meeting place for everything that we do. This is where we're going to bring in the provider from Redux and all of that. And if you look at different React apps, sometimes it's in app.js, sometimes people do it in the index.js as well. But I noticed that when you use Create React App, most people you do it in the app.js. Okay, and that there's a lot when it comes to React, there's a lot of preference. There's a million different ways to do the same thing. And if you have experience with React and Redux and you're taking this course, there's probably going to be things where you're going to be like, why did he do it that way? I always do it this way. And that's fine. It doesn't mean that my way is right and yours is wrong or the other way around. Just sometimes people do things differently. All right, there are some blatant things that you should not do, but for the most part, it's preference. Okay, so just keep that in mind if you do actually have experience with React and Redux and you see me do something that you probably would do differently. All right, now let's bring in a couple things from the router. So we're going to say import, and we want to bring in the browser router. Now browser router, it's basically going to mimic just a standard server. We'll be able to hit the back button to go to the route that we were just at, things like that. We'll use the browser back and forward buttons. So we want to use browser router, and I'm going to say as router. Okay, you don't have to do this, but I just want to be able to say router down here instead of browser router, so we're going to use it as router. And then we also want to include route. Okay, when we want to create an individual route, we're going to use that. So we're going to bring this in from React router DOM. Okay, make sure you add that DOM on there. Now what we need to do is go down to our render here, and we're going to surround this div, the main div, with router. Okay, so we want to put that, and then we want to end it down here, router. Now, if I didn't do the as router right here, we would have to put browser router here, and you might see that sometimes as well. Now, the way we have this set up is the landing is always going to be displayed, and we don't want that. We want a route for the landing, which will be just the index, basically the home page. So what we're going to do, instead of actually, I'll just get rid of this. Instead of landing right here, we're going to use route, Okay, remember we brought that in up above, and we're going to say path equals, and the path I want is just slash. Okay, now for this path we want the component. Actually, we don't want quotes here. We want curly braces, and we're going to say landing. Okay, because landing is coming from this. It's the landing component, so we want to put that in there. All right, now another thing we want to do when we create our routes, pretty much, yeah, I'm pretty sure we do this on all of our routes, and that is exact. Because if we don't do that, it'll actually show content from multiple routes on the same page, and we don't want that. For instance, if we have another route that's like /login, it'll also show the landing component because it has the slash in it. All right, if that makes sense. So you want to make sure the exact path goes to that exact component, and that's it. So let's go ahead and save this. And if we take a look at our app, it should look the exact same. If we reload, good. So basically what's happening is it's just loading the landing page on the index route. Okay, now if I go to like /test, it's just going to basically show nothing. Okay, that's the default. Now to really make sure that the router is working, let's create another component. Now the first couple things we're going to do is the login and registration. I think that's probably one of the more difficult things that we're going to be doing, is you passing the JWT token, all that stuff. So I kind of want to get that out of the way. So let's create inside components. Let's create a new folder called register. Okay. Actually, you know what we could do? Initially, I was going to do that, but let's actually, instead of doing register and login as separate folders, let's just create a folder called auth, just to kind of, you know, so we don't have as many folders. And then in here we'll put our register.js, and we'll put our login.js. Okay, so this will be our register and login form components. Now for the login, let's just do a class-based component. We'll say login and we'll go down here and export default login. And for now, all I'm going to do, just to make sure the router is working, I'm just going to put an H1 in here that says login. All right, and then what we'll do is copy this, go to the register, paste that in, change this to register, and change the heading to register. Make sure we export register as well. All right, so now we have those components. Now we want to create routes for these components. So let's go back to app.js. And now remember I started to create a container. I do want a container around everything except the landing page, because the landing page is the only component that I want to go across the whole screen, because it has a background image and all that. So I am going to put a div here with the class of container, class name of container, and then in here we're going to put our routes. So let's say route exact path, and the path that I want to use is /register, and then the component that I want to use is register. Okay. Notice when I save the space, I usually like to do like spaces like that, but Prettier will actually format it like that, but that's fine. And it says register is not defined. That's because we haven't brought in the component yet, so don't worry about that. Let's copy this down and let's do the same with login. So we want the login route to go to the login component. All right, and then we'll just bring those in up here. So we'll copy this down twice. This one will be register, and it's going to come from component /auth/register, and this one will be login, also in auth, and make sure we change this to login. All right, so we'll save that. And now let's go back to our application and let's go to /login. And there it is. If we go to /register, there it is. Now we want to link these to these here, and this doesn't work because right now it's set to login.html. And remember what I said, we don't use the A tag, we use link, which comes from the router. So let's go to our navbar. So we want to go to Components, Layout, Navbar, and we want to import link from React Router DOM. And now what we'll do is we'll replace the A tag right here with link, capital L, and then we'll make sure we add the ending tag. And then instead of href, we want to do to, and then the component we want, which is going to be /register. All right, and then we're going to do the same with the login. So we'll say link, and this will be to /login. Okay, now let's see, where is it? This A tag right here, which is basically like the logo, I want to link this to, let's see, we're going to link this just to /. So we'll say to /, and we need to use link here as well. Like that. All right, so that looks good. Right here we have profiles. We might as well change, even though we don't have the profiles component yet, we might as well change this so we don't have to do it later. So it'll be link to /profiles. All right, let's just double check. Good. Now I'm going to copy the import of link, and I'm going to save this. And then we're going to go to our landing page because we also have some links there that we need to change, the 2 buttons. So let's paste that in. So we import link, do the same thing here. It's going to be to register. All right, and then this one here will be to /login, and there we go. All right, so let's save and let's try it out. So now let's just go back to the home page, and if we click sign up, brings us to the register, login. Developers is going to bring us nowhere because we don't have this route set up yet. Dev connector, the logo, will take us back to the landing. So that's exactly what we want. And then these 2 buttons should work. Good. Back button should work since we're using browser route. Good. All right, so now anytime we want to create a component and add it to the router, we simply add it as a route. Now later on I'm going to show you how we can create private routes as well, because for instance, some like the dashboard, we don't want anybody to go to. You have to be logged in, but first we have to get the authentication all settled and all that. Now in the next video we're going to start to create our sign up form, and we're going to talk a little bit about component state. All right, most of the time we're going to be dealing with application state with Redux once we implement it, but I do want to talk a little bit about component state. We're also going to create our forms and get into that a little bit. All right, and maybe we'll even make an HTTP request to our back end just to make sure that that's actually working. All right, so I will see you in the next video.